Hello, welcome to my channel and welcome to the seedy woods of frontier Italy. I am on the border between Italy and Switzerland, just next to Lake Maggiore, which is a big alpine lake that Italy and Switzerland share, although Switzerland only has the northern tip of said lake. And I'm walking in these woods that are charged with recent history, tragic recent history. Not only tragic actually, and with tragic current events as well, actually, as we shall see. Today is November 11th, so that's Armistice Day. In France, at least, you know, they celebrate the end of World War I. They honor the dead, the numerous dead of that war. I'm not sure the Germans commemorate them. The Italians actually don't have a national day on November 11th. I know that in America it is Veterans Day. That's how it's called. And I guess elsewhere too in the English-speaking world. But this area is has actually written a small page of history in the Second World War in 1943. So 81 years exactly, almost exactly today, because indeed in mid-November, the 14th or the 15th, as I seem to remember. In this area, in a mountain just next door, called San Martino mountain, there was a battle between the Italian resistance and the Nazis, essentially. I mean, the Nazis and the fascists. Indeed, in 1943, after Mussolini was deposed, Italy was basically cut in half. Well, the center and the north for the next 2 years until the end of the war was still controlled by the Nazis, and their fascist allies, who basically submitted to them, just took orders from them, and whereas the south had been occupied, freed by the allies. And so that battle took place on Mount San Martino, and the resistance were actually surrounded, encircled by the Nazis and the fascists, and most of them perished, with a few managing to flee to Switzerland, which is really just a few hundred meters from here. And so that's a first exchange, let's say, recent exchange between Switzerland and Italy here on this border area. The second notable exchange between Italy and Switzerland in this area happened in the post-war period between 1945 and the mid-70s, roughly. Indeed, back then these woods were the theater of cigarette smuggling. There were a number of Italian smugglers from around here who, to make a living or to, compensate for maybe a salary that wasn't good enough, would smuggle cigarettes from Switzerland into Italy. And that went on for 30 years from what I know. And I know this also because I lived in the nearby town for a couple of years, and I knew a guy, a retired border patrol agent, who told me about this. And I remember an anecdote. I mean, one day I was walking with him in town, and we ran into this guy whom I also knew, who is a dickhead. Let's be quite clear on that. It's a local fascist, a local complete xenophobe who hates all foreigners, you know, and he's very vocal, he says it absolutely publicly. His Facebook profile is spectacular from that point of view. Well, he hates all foreigners, but he hates the Chinese more, which kind of rang a bell with me because my wife is Chinese, and so are my kids. So he's half my family, and he hates them because there's a big community here actually of Chinese in northern Italy. They all come from Wenzhou, by the way. That's also an interesting topic. Where they come from, what's their story. My wife being the exception, actually, she doesn't come at all from that area. But anyway, there's a big community and of Chinese, and yeah, they are busy in all sorts of businesses. One of the things he hates about them is that they, apart from the fact that they are filthy, dog-eating locusts that should die. That's literally what he writes on his profile. Okay, so it's there, scripta manent. Maybe I'll provide a link to his profile below. Maybe not. But he's mad at them because, you know, they're apparently better than him at doing business in some tricky ways or something. I don't know. And it's true that they are known for, I mean, they are known. It does happen in the Chinese community that they, notably with taxes, they tend to be not very disciplined sometimes. I mean, as if the Italians were, you know, super respectful. I mean, they are very good at that too. But anyway, I digress. I was with this old retired border patrol guy, and we ran into the dickheads, and they started talking very friendly. So it seemed that they had known each other for ages, and yeah, they were interacting in a very warm and friendly way. I was staying on the side because I didn't really have any will to interact with the said character. Then they finished talking, and we kept walking, me and my friends. And of course I asked him how come he seemed to knew him so well, you know? And he told me, well, I know him very well. I've known him for 50 years basically, because I arrested him, you know? He, back in the 70s, I mean, this guy is 86, 87, my friends, and the dickhead is in his 60s or something. So he was basically a 20-year-old back then who smuggled cigarettes from Switzerland to Italy, you know. So much for calling the Chinese dishonest and whatever. Anyway, that's for the little anecdote about these seedy woods in frontier Italy. So behind those trees, below us, you should be able to catch a glimpse of the lake. Not sure you can see it, but if you don't, it's okay, because I'm actually taking you to a nice place from where you will have a spectacular view over the lake. So anyway, back to the present day, after the little historical premise. Today these woods here, these seedy woods of frontier Italy, are the theater of yet another kind of exchange. Another type of business, that is to say the drug business. Because it is here that drug dealers are doing their business. They have chosen these woods as their spot where to hide their stash, or to, you know, quite simply to sell their stuff to the clients. There's a big drug trafficking activity going on in the woods here, unfortunately, and it's been managed by mostly Moroccan, or at least North African criminals, who are actually working as subcontractors, so to speak, of the Ndrangheta. I don't know if you've heard of the Ndrangheta, but it is quite simply Italy's what's wrong with me? Biggest criminal organization, Italy's biggest mafia. It has overtaken Cosa Nostra, which you probably know. It has overtaken it big time. It has a special relationship, an exclusive agreement, let's call it, with the Mexican and the Colombian cartels. So if you're a cocaine user, I hope you're not, in Europe, there's a big chance that what you're consuming has been sold to you by the 'Ndrangheta. Here in Italy, it's and elsewhere too, I guess, it's creating joint ventures with the Nigerian, the Albanian, the Russian mafia, I guess too. And here in this part of Italy, it's using those North Africans as subcontractors. Yeah, and it's all happening here. Although I don't think we're going to run into any of them, because this particular area is this path here is quite popular, and the area is just not wild enough. But they're here. I mean, they're around here. You know, it's quite an issue. It's been going on for some time now, and you regularly hear about police catching either drugs or indeed the criminals. Last year there was a controversial thing about the controversial event. I don't know how to call it. Anyway, basically a cop, a policeman here, a border patrol agent really, shot a drug dealer in the back as he was running away, and this caused a lot of controversy. I mean, not in the way I expected, actually. I'm going to elaborate on that a bit, but maybe I'll wait a bit. I'll do that after I've shown you what appears to be the spot with the view. I think we've reached it. Here it is. Check it out. Here is the lake. Here is the view on the lake. Now it's a bit covered though. It is covered today. It's not a clear view. That's too bad. But it's still nice. I hope you like it. As the sun is beginning to set, I guess. And I don't know if you can spot them there, but you have those tiny islands there, which are actually castles, medieval castles that were built on a little piece of land coming out of the water. And they've been there for I don't know, 800 or 900 years, I imagine. And they were actually used by pirates. You know, pirates would rob the people in the surrounding towns, and then they would hide their own stash into those castles. You know, which is maybe a more glamorous spot than the woods that those drug dealers are using. So those are the castles of the pirates of Lake Maggiore, which beats the pirates of the Caribbean somehow, in my opinion. I don't know. Anyway, here's the rest of the lake, and over there, where the view ends, that's where Switzerland starts. I think that that small town, the last small town, there is already Switzerland on the other side of the lake. Anyway, this is the view. Nice. I don't know if you can get a better view from here on the castles of the pirates of Lake Maggiore, but anyway, maybe not. Anyway, back to the drug dealer who was shot by a policeman in the back. What I found controversial, to say the least, I should say animal-like, is the reaction to it in the local community here. Actually, I mean, the article came out the day after this happened, and it mentioned the fact that the guy had died, had been killed, which absolutely no one regretted. I mean, he was a drug dealer, sure, a scumbag, we could say, but maybe he didn't deserve to die, in my opinion. But anyway, people were literally cheering at the fact that he was dead, that he died, and then they were foaming at the mouth, literally so, at reading just one paragraph further in the article that naturally the cop was being investigated, because he has to be, because it would happen in any such situation, I imagine, and even more so in a situation like that, where the guy has been shot in the back while running away, and he was just being investigated. I mean, obviously people confuse investigation with accusation. Certain people do, because the guy didn't get, to my knowledge, he hasn't been tried for anything, as is often the case, but he's been investigated, because that's common practice in any country that has a semblance of a state of law, I would say. Wow, big dog who would most likely eat me if he was not separated from me by a strong barrier, luckily. And anyway, I'm gonna cut it for a second here. So anyway, it turns out that the realest danger, for me at least, in those seedy woods were not pushers, but dogs, watchdogs, loose, big guard dogs. And luckily I found some guy who gave me a ride down here, and I saved myself. But just to conclude on that story, I mean, yeah, I found those reactions disproportional, to say the least. I would even say, again, I reiterate, animal-like. Because no matter how scummy the guy may be, as a pusher, as a drug dealer, you don't cheer for his death, and you accept the fact that the cop, it's part of his job, is going to be investigated, especially in that situation, I would say. But regardless, you need to know what went on. And But no, what you had is people cheering for the guy's death and foaming at the mouth, really, because the cop was being investigated. And this is all in sharp contrast with what I'm used to, so to speak, in France. In France or in the French-speaking world, but in France, let's say, where 20 years ago already, two kids who were running away from the cops after apparently trying to break into some place, ended up hiding in some electrical substation in the Paris suburbs. They hid there from the cops, and they got electrocuted, sadly, and they died. And this sparked massive riots throughout the banlieue, the Paris ghetto, so to speak, and mass riots, and it's a common pattern, actually, I mean, even last year, still in Paris, this kid was shot accidentally fatally shot by a cop after running away from him on a luxury car which he had rented and was not allowed to drive, and he didn't even have his driving license. And in fleeing, he apparently put people's lives in danger. I mean, pedestrians, and regardless, the cops killed him, and mass riots ensued all across France. So so that's where the contrast is. I'm not saying this is right, by the way. I'm saying really that both mass reactions are wrong, but they are also complete opposites. In Italy, by contrast, like I said, a pusher dies, shot in the back by a cop, and people are cheering and mad because the cop might be punished, even if he has to legally. With the local senator here, the local senator of this constituency, who even made a public declaration in the Italian parliament the very day after this happened. We still didn't know any of the details. The investigation hadn't even started yet, and he was basically already, stating his solidarity for the cop. I find both reactions just as extreme and, in the end, animal-like. Okay, sorry if someone feels offended, but yeah, I'm rambling once again, and I'm rambling on a subject that deserves more than just rambling, I suppose. So I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna tell you goodbye, bid you adieu until next time, with a view on this beautiful sunset. Bye bye.